A few of you wanted to talk about the student loan forgiveness that just got passed by Biden, so that's what we're going to talk about today. And as always, I want to hear your thoughts, so make sure that you comment down below. So first off, in general, I'm happy people are getting a break on their student loans. And that's not to say that it's fair for the people who already paid off their student loans that they're not getting this benefit, but it's more to say that I think universities are out of control and they're really screwing people, so I'm glad that some of that debt can be relieved. As far as the people who already paid their stuff off and that aren't going to benefit from this, well, maybe you should get a transfer of $10,000. Or not a transfer, just a federal tax break. Because what's interesting is something like 92% of all student loans are owned by the government. So when they're giving a $10,000 break, that's a break from the government. So maybe everyone should get a $10,000 tax credit. But either way, I think clearing up some of the debt is a good idea. It's going to help people out a lot. But what I don't like about this is that it's not fixing the actual problem, because the actual problem is these universities. Their prices are absolutely ridiculous. You can see right here in a post from Ben Carlson, he shows how much college tuition and fees have changed versus the consumer price index. So this is the natural increase in prices of things, this orange line right here. And then this is college right here, this purple line. The cost of college is up exponentially more than CPI over the past 40 years. You could easily see that right here. And why is that? Is it more expensive to teach people? No, it's really not. I remember being in school and paying so much in tuition, and not only that, but books were so expensive, and these books were just written by the professors teaching the classes. And every year they would make you buy their new edition, which really didn't have any changes, but that's another $200 that they get for their book, and another $200 that you don't get to keep. And now this is my personal opinion, but I think college and education in general is pretty overrated. And it's a personal opinion because I didn't learn much in school. And I went to a good school. I went to the University of Michigan. I was in the economics department, which was a great department. And keep in mind that I co-founded MacroOps, right? A global macroeconomic research firm. But do you know where I learned all my economics? It was not in school. It was after school, when I was reading and just trying to figure out what actually makes sense. Because if you take departments like economics departments, right, they don't actually do anything, in the sense that people that graduate from there, most of them are just going back into academics. So they're becoming professors. They go on to an economics graduate program, and then they get a PhD, and then they teach. And you know, we make fun of economics all the time on this channel because they assume that everyone's rational and they have a bunch of stupid assumptions and their models don't actually work in real life, which is once again why I was saying that most of the stuff that I learned was after college. The useful stuff was economics 101 and 102, micro and macro, just the basics. But beyond that, it was all pretty stupid. But anyway, my point is that if you get an economics degree and the main point is to go back and study more economics, then what you have is a little system that feeds itself. And nobody wants to break that system because there is so much money involved. Because to get an economics degree, you got to pay a bunch in tuition, right? And then guess what? You get to pay even more in graduate school. I saw another stat recently that half of all student debt is from graduate students. So you have this little machine where these people just keep going back into academics and they're feeding off new people coming in. And no one wants to break it because that's all you could kind of do with economics. That's not really all you can do, but that's all universities really do. And of course, there are exceptions. Like I've worked in a corporate economics department that was pretty cool. But even them, like how much can you really forecast? They would do all these calculations for just a normal 2% growth, which everybody already knows. But so it's all kind of stupid. But keep in mind, I'm only talking about the economics department, right? And economics, out of all the social sciences, it's probably one of the more useful ones, right? But think about other departments like art history or any of the social sciences. You kind of get that same system that feeds itself. And I'm not saying something like art history isn't important, because I think it is. But the structure in which these colleges are teaching people and the way they're making money off of it, that's wrong. And that's why you have this huge increase in the prices of colleges. This is just nuts right here. And it's the worst when it comes to these jobs where you know people aren't going to get paid as much as they put in to get educated to get the job. Art history is one example, but here's one not so controversial if you don't believe in liberal arts. Think about social work. Now, social work is a very important job, and it's a very difficult job. The things that you got to deal with are just ridiculous. But if you don't help those people, who else is going to help those people, right? So I got respect for social workers, but the problem with social work is that you barely get paid anything. But even so, most of these social workers, to qualify to do the social work that they want to do, they have to get a graduate degree. So imagine getting paid like $32,000 a year with so much student debt because you had to go and get all this education to supposedly do your job. Is that fair? If anything, if you're going to go into a job like social work that's very difficult and it's needed, but we know because of how economics works, you're not going to get paid anything, then maybe your college, and if you really do need graduate school, all of that should be free, because you're already going to have a tough time and you're doing some real good in the world too. But no, that's not what happens. Instead, these things just keep getting more and more expensive, and these colleges don't care because they know everyone's going to take a loan, so they'll get their money, and then it just doesn't matter. matter. And I don't think that's right. Another example is teachers. They have a rough job too. And the more I learn about how their pay is structured, it is bad. So once again, don't saddle them with debt. But colleges don't care, and that's who the government should be going after. You should see the University of Michigan. It's almost 10 years since I graduated. And every year that I was there and every year after, because I still go to Ann Arbor, I see more and more high rises. And I see the students that are walking around, they're getting richer and richer. A lot of them come in from New York because they have a lot of money. And the reason that's happening is because colleges like that are just becoming so expensive. So the people who can afford them are this richer upper class. It becomes a stupid elitist system, which is not the point of education. And again, I barely believe in education because of how little I thought it helped me. But the general optimal idea of education should be to help everyone. And making college so expensive does not do that. So this student loan forgiveness is really not fixing the core problem. Now, Ben here had some other thoughts on student loans. He does not like the fact that the government is still charging high interest rates on that student loan debt because it's all from them, right? When he graduated in college, he was paying 2.5% on his loans, which was very manageable. In fact, it was so low that he used the entire 15-year life of the loan to pay it off. There was no reason to pay it off early. But now the average rate for existing borrowers is 5.8%. So that's more than double. And if the government owns 92% of all student loan debt, why do they need to make so much money on it? Now, this is older, so it says they can effectively borrow at 0%, which they can't anymore, but they could still borrow at pretty low rates. So there's no need for this high interest percentage. So another idea is instead of loan forgiveness, maybe we should start by canceling the interest on these loans. That, I think, is another good idea, especially if the government is owning all those loans. Now, Ben says he likes the income cap on the forgiveness here because you're only going to get the $10,000 off if you make less than $125,000 a year. Now, in my opinion, I think this should apply to everyone. I actually don't like the income cap. Like I said, let's all get $10,000 off our taxes this year. That way, everyone benefits. People that are making more are already paying more taxes, right? Well, they should be. If they're not, then close the loopholes. But I do think everyone, regardless of how much you're making, should benefit from it. Now, another question that we all have is how is this going to affect the stock market? Well, if it was a few years ago, I would have said that all of this $10,000 would be piled right into the stock market. But considering the fact that we had such a bad year this year and everyone's a bit psychologically beat up, I don't know if that money is going to flow back into the market. But at the very least, I do think it will be spent in the economy, which is a good thing. Especially if we are going into a recession, people could use the money. So all in all, I like this. I know a lot of people who are going to benefit from it, but I don't like how they're not going after the colleges because that's the real problem. It's not right what they're doing. But make sure you let me know your thoughts down below. And if you haven't already, make sure you watch this video about why you'll never be a rational investor. I know we all want to be rational investors, but it's not going to happen. And that's the problem with economics that we were just talking about. And it's something that we have to accept. So make sure you click this video right here and I will see you there.